Welcome everybody to the Glacial video today. The topic that we wanted to talk about today was how do you create a successful marketing campaign for your medical practice? I'm sitting here with several of my team members, and we've been through hundreds of campaigns, and 2020 brought some really tremendous results. And we just kind of wanted to tell everybody out there what the opportunity is that they're kind of missing if you're not engaged in some of these things, and then kind of what your game plan would look like as you start to begin to kind of roll this stuff out and try to attract new patients. Mm-hmm. We had a really tremendous year last year in our LASIK advertising category. Our total conversions were up 136%, and our conversion rate was also up 55%, while our cost per conversions, believe it or not, was actually down 55%. So getting more leads at a better conversion rate at a lower price. So we really can't complain about that. And two of the areas that we had in particular success in was the social ad category with Matt Fernandez, and also the Google Ads category with Spenser. But before we get to those guys, I kind of wanted to segue over to Hannah a little bit, because Hannah's kind of involved with making sure the campaign gets off the ground, getting the giant airplane off the ground, and making sure that we can go out and do the techniques and tactics that we need to do to kind of start to attract these. So Hannah, can you just kind of say a little bit about what that process is like, how important the landing page is, and how all that connectivity works?
Yeah, so we usually start with the client and really identify which area they need to see the most growth in for new patients, whether that's LASIK or cataract surgery. Refer back to Spenser and Matt from our ads team, figure out what a good budget is. They provide keyword lists and get all of that set up for the optimal performance. And then on our side, we're also working with the client to set up what we refer to as a landing page, which is an external page from the website that's completely isolated, and you can only access that through these ad campaigns. So that really lets us know exactly how many clicks you got on that web page specifically, and also how many form fills and phone calls are coming from that. So it gives us a lot more data. It also doesn't mess up any of the website analytics or any of the traffic there. It lets us be really segmented. So we're really working on landing page development, ad development. With that too, if any of our accounts are using MD Prospects, which is our lead management CRM, we're hooking that up to a landing page too, which is really cool with that methodology. So we would actually see a lead come in from a Facebook ad that Matt's running, and we can see if it actually went through to surgery. Same thing for the PPC team.
One of the questions we get a lot is can you guys do A/B testing? And there's a great new tool out that we've been testing in our IT department right now, and it's called Google Optimize, and it's going to enable us and others to really do better at A/B testing and do it in a much more cost-effective fashion. And then Spenser and Matt can run their A/B versions of this, and then we can have conversations with the clients thereafter about, hey, what version worked. And sometimes, as Matt and I found out this year from working on a Pterygium campaign, sometimes you have to tweak these things, and you got to dial it right in. And once you dial it in, your leads start going up, and you have what you have. So why don't we talk to you, Matt, a little bit about some of your successes. The Facebook stuff's a little bit more on the interruption style level, but your lead volume is just great. Your cost to acquire the leads just phenomenal. It's almost like a no-brainer for a medical practice.
It's hard to live up to that expectation there, but yeah, no, I mean, we've seen great results here. I mean, LASIK's been steady for a long time. I mean, social media, obviously, younger people, that all makes sense. But I think within the last year, the big shocker, kind of the low-hanging fruit for a lot of our practices, is that cataract demo. We've been seeing just conversions off the charts with that demographic in particular lately, and I think it's to do with a couple things. Number one, as our doctor clients will tell you, people are getting cataracts at a younger age than ever these days. But number two, every year it goes by, the cataract demo gets more and more tech savvy. So they're definitely more of a viable option on social media now than really they've ever been. So that's an area where we've seen tremendous growth in lead generation across the board, and LASIK as well. I mean, LASIK continues to grow in popularity, but cataract is something right now that I think a lot of people aren't taking advantage of that they should start taking advantage of.
That's a great point, Matt, and I think we're just seeing all indications that now is really the time to get your cataract surgery practice out there. Spence, you had some great successes in 2020 despite COVID, And despite the fact that your ad budgets need to be significantly more than Matt's to generate leads, how did you make up all that ground to get the numbers you got at the end of the year with fewer clients?
Yeah, it's a great question, and definitely at the beginning of the year, mid-March, when everybody was shutting down, a lot of the practices we work with, most of the practices we work with, not able to see patients, kind of everybody panicking, ourselves included. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? How can we all stay open if we don't have patients or clients or whatever it is? And we did have some clients who pushed through and continued to advertise, and those clients were rewarded by huge boons of patients, when they were able to reopen, that were just queued up, they're ready, didn't want to wait any longer to have LASIK or cataract surgery especially. So a lot of the practices that did continue to advertise had a huge summer, early spring when they were able to reopen. But even the ones who, picked it up early on, when they could reopen, had a huge advantage because a lot of their competitors were no longer advertising. So they had cheaper cost per click, better click-through rates. More people were choosing them because they were the first ad that would appear, or the only ad that would appear in a lot of cases. So the cost per lead went way down. The conversion rates went way up. Demand never really went down, despite COVID kind of doing what it did. There's still a lot of demand for LASIK and cataract surgery, and the practices that kind of pushed through and continue to advertise had an enormous advantage over the practices that pulled their ad budgets entirely.
That's great, Spencer. And a lot of the stuff we've been talking about today is sort of direct response, digital marketing. Could you, Spencer, just weigh in a little bit on what are some of the digital branding options? Because the digital branding piece is often overlooked because it might not be the crazy lead generator, but there is some value, and it's quite super inexpensive to do some of these modalities, correct?
Yeah, so to your point earlier, primarily what we focus on, or what my team focuses on, are the search ads. People doing direct searches for LASIK surgery or cataract surgery and seeing one of those top 3 or 4 ad spots. Those leads tend to be, very high quality because there's some urgency there. People are actively looking for a service that your practice, promote, your practice wants to sell. You have the landing page designed to convert them, and in theory that lead is going to be very hot because they're actively looking for what you do. What Matt does on the Facebook side of things, on the social media side of things, and what Google can do on the display, remarketing, video side of things, are more on the branding, interruption style ads. We're really trying to influence people more than anything else. We're really trying to get your brand in front of them, get your message in front of them, and kind of tell them who you are, and can stay in front of them, especially remarketing, kind of stay in front of them, top of mind awareness, and just re-engage them over time. So you never really leave their frame of thought. Especially, with video, you have extra time to kind of explain why somebody should choose you and kind of get that extra brand message out there. Extremely valuable from the brand perspective. What Google does on the display and video side is definitely more on the traditional branding side, billboards, TVs, things like that, with the added benefit of really advanced targeting, geo-targeting, demographic-based targeting, interest-based targeting, as well as data. So we can see, which demographics, which audiences are converting, which ones aren't, in tweaking the campaign. What Matt does, he tends to get a lot more leads, kind of similar to what we would see on search. Matt, can you tell us a little bit about what the difference is from your leads on Facebook versus the leads I typically see from search?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like Spencer mentioned, on search, it's people looking for your services actively, and on Facebook, we're getting in front of them when they're taking a picture of their food or liking a photo of their new niece or nephew or whatever. We're interrupting their day. So typically we can get a lot of leads for low cost, but they're definitely more top of funnel type leads. That they need engagement, re-engagement, and it's going to take a while for most of them to come into the door. But they're so cheap, you got to just nurse them, and then they'll come in eventually.
And one of the key reasons we see more leads come in through Facebook than we would through a Google display campaign or a video campaign is really the placement. Especially on a mobile device, when you're on that Facebook news feed flipping through, that is the only thing you see on the page. It's a huge ad. It's in stream, it's got a lot of copy, a nice image, versus the display ads that are kind of more smaller sizes placed throughout the page, usually not directly in front of what you're reading. So those ads tend to have lower click-through rates, lower conversion rates, but they still do have value, especially since they're so low cost from the brand side of things. Videos similar. Video is one of my favorite things to do because it is so cost effective. It's so much cheaper than traditional video mediums. Even newer things like Hulu, it's just so much cheaper cost per 1,000 impressions than you would see with those services. But again, it's super interruption style. So you're expecting somebody to stop what they're doing, click on your ad, and fill out a form before they actually watch the video they want to watch. It's more unlikely that you'll see conversions come through on the video side of things, but the views, the impressions that you get from those videos are extremely valuable and extremely low cost.
Great, thanks, Spencer. So Hannah, in closing for us, I'd like you to maybe give a few tips or pieces of advice to a practice that maybe wants to capitalize on the fact that now's a great time to get involved with this kind of stuff. What are some things you might be able to recommend so that people don't take any wrong steps or missteps and they get their campaign off to the right start?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely start at the bare minimum. We recommend at least a search campaign paired with remarketing. I think that social remarketing has really taken off quite a bit Q3, Q4 last year too. So that's another area I would definitely include. And again, just the landing pages are super key for us to really see what leads you got and for the doctors to really see what their return on investment was. How many of these leads did you actually do surgery on? And we're able to do that with MD prospects.
We have a very good system down here at Glacial after 20 years to actually help practices figure out what they got for the money they spent. Tracking ROI and tracking new patients can be very difficult, but if you're interested, we'd be happy to go through what our system is that we do that with. If you're interested, you can take advantage of some of those products. I just want to thank everybody today for being on this call, and hopefully we'll do more of these in the future.